So a few months back, I was in an office of a general contractor that we've been working with for a little over a year now. And I'm walking in like I typically would do and walk past one of the superintendents, probably 36, 37 years old. And he looks at me with a little bit of a tired face and he goes, "Gosh, what are we working on today, Dwayne?" And I looked at him, I said, "I don't know, man. What's on your mind? What'd you like to work on?" He goes, "I don't know what I want to work on today. I just want something easy that I can go back and implement with the people on my job site that helps me be a better leader for them and helps them enjoy what they're doing today." And I said to myself, that's a great idea, but that's not what we're covering today. This particular series that we're rolling out and that we're introducing to you today is one of those things that's not difficult at all to implement. It's not going to cost you anything except a little bit of courage and some consistency. What we've discovered over the last couple of years is that there are specific mindsets that are actually holding people and teams and companies back. And in these scenarios, they don't need more consultants. They don't need more workshops. They don't need another book. It's literally just these mindsets that we're going to talk to you about that need to be changed in order to get you, your leaders, your teams, your organization to the next level. Today, we're going to introduce you to the first of 4 mindsets. Welcome to the Pioneer Cast. I'm Dwayne Abels, founder and president of Pioneer IQ. We hope over the course of the next few minutes that you're able to pick something up that helps you better lead yourself, inspire your team, and maximize the potential of the organization that you serve. If you or someone on your team truly wants to better engage people and maximize their potential and get the most out of their team, I'm borderline begging you to get them to a boot camp. At these boot camps, I guarantee you 3 things are going to happen. Number 1, you and the people that you bring from your team are going to come together as a team and gel more so than any other time. Number 2, you're going to help them make life decisions about who they are, what they're great at, and what they could become at home and on your team and at work. And then thirdly, you're going to be able to see into what you could become as a leader, what it means to lead in 2024, and how to maximize the potential of the people around you, both at home and at work. Take the next steps. Go to our website, pioneerq.com. We've got these all across the country, and sign up. Joining us for this particular series is Dan Benton. Dan is a new business partner, relatively new business partner to Pioneer IQ, but a longtime friend of mine. And as importantly, he is the architect of these 4 mindsets. So Dan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dwayne. I'm excited to be here.
So it was such a weird scenario. You joined us about a year ago, right? You have a background that is way deeper than mine if we wanted to compare and get competitive, which we do quite often. But you have led massive organizations, huge teams of up to a couple thousand in Fortune 100 companies. And what was really interesting to me is as soon as you came in, you joined us, you started getting in depth with a lot of our clients and starting to facilitate and getting to know them. You began to crystallize things that we've been watching, monitoring, hearing, getting snippets and crumbs of for probably a couple of years now, which ultimately became these 4 mindsets that you ended up designing and presenting to us. To me, that's just a really interesting scenario where many minds came together and you were the guy that really helped crystallize it and design that for us. So I'm excited for you to walk us and the viewers through what these 4 mindsets are and how to specifically apply them.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun journey, right? A lot of the things that we touch on in our work with our clients every day, but it really was a culmination of 25, 30 years of experience of leading teams and organizations and really understanding how to maximize their potential. So a lot of the work we do every day, just some of the things that I've learned of 25 years of actually doing the work as a leader. So
I started out by initiating the conversation around the story where the young PM walked in, young soup walked in and basically was just looking for something easy to implement. So when you think about these 4 mindsets, which we're going to introduce here in just a second, am I overstating that? Is this something that's really hard? Is it expensive? Or are they legitimately things that you can easily implement?
That's an awesome question, Dwayne, because I think so much of this resides in the principle of, personal growth drives organizational growth. And there's so many of these components that are about how you grow as a leader, right? We're leading a tremendously diverse workforce in our industry, right? And taking the time to understand how do I lead them effectively is really what this is about. It's not strategic planning. It's not a different process you have to implement. It's just around how do you grow as a leader and continue to challenge yourself to show up to be the best version of yourself for your team and for your organization.
Yeah, as we've been working through this and have heard you present this topic, Dan's got a couple-hour workshop that he takes executive teams and managers and owners through, team leads, etc., through to help them see the 4 mindsets and then understand how to very quickly start to make shifts to better lead their teams. But as you were talking us through these concepts, I started realizing that we run across teams, divisions, and even companies that are like on this plateau. Like they have all the resources available to them, and they hit this plateau where they just don't seem they're not able to move forward, right? They're maybe still winning work and delivering work, but no one's growing. They're not really improving. They're just getting work and doing work. And as you started presenting these 4 mindset shifts, I started reflecting on these teams and leaders. I'm telling you, man, it is like a pandemic, if you will, that has an easy solution that people can implement. So I'm excited to jump into the series here. All right, Dan, so there are 4 mindsets that you've designed, and we're going to tackle the first one today. So introduce the first one to us and really help us understand, like, what the heck does that mean? Because I think some of these terms we hear a lot, but what does that actually mean to people who are leading teams?
Yeah, so thank you, Dwayne. The first one is success to significance. And it's really around understanding what drives, motivates, inspires, and why people do what they do, right? If you think about the workforce in the United States, for decades, it was around success. It was around making money, right? It was around milestones in a career, in a life journey. So if you think about, and I'm not going to get into a generational conversation because that can wind a bunch of people up, but at the end of the day, it was really around making money, being successful. And many executives in our industry for decades, if you would ask them who they were, they would have led with, I am my title, their position at work, right? I'm the president of this company, of this organization, because that was really important to them, right? That's how they identified themselves. Now, if you ask young leaders, young executives, how they identify themselves, their position, their title, their achievement from a professional standpoint will be one of the last things they tell you. They'll tell you who they are as an individual, what they're passionate about doing in their community or supporting their family or their purpose that they serve. And so there's been a big shift in success and how people define success. And when you understand that significance to a greater purpose or what they want to achieve in their life is far more powerful to generations that we lead today than achieving the next position, buying a new home, those milestones, which used to be the motivating factor in our society, are no longer as important.
Yeah. So in the at the SMATNA conference last year, we rolled out a video that one of our other business partners, Dr. Charlie Cartwright, had cut a quick video. And in the video, he was basically communicating that we're still continuing to provide a post-World War II leadership model. And that whole model is based on money. And it's based on success being directly related to how much money you make. Now, just for the record, we're not saying that this is an excuse to pay people less. That's absolutely not what we're saying. There's a medium threshold that you have to meet. There's the threshold you have to meet before people can really focus on significance. They have to have their basic needs met. That we're saying that, right? We're saying you have to be at or even above the industry standards for compensation. But that's not what's really motivating people, according to this first mindset shift.
Yeah, 100%. I would tell you that compensation, while it's always in the top 10, it's not the primary driving force, right? And I've said it I learned this early in my career after a decade of leadership, I think is when it probably crystallized for me. If you retain somebody on compensation, guess what? You're going to lose them on compensation as well. So don't think that becomes the easy go-to. That's the typical go-to. But at the end of the day, being really clear around someone's significance and the role they play and how they impact their team and how they impact your organization is far more powerful than, now again, like you said, compensation is important, and we have to compensate fairly and adequately and ensure the needs of our teams are taken care of, but helping them understand their significance and their story and the impact it has on your purpose as an organization. And when you align those two purposes, individual purpose and company purpose, it's wildly powerful.
Okay, Dan. So I feel like you've done a good job of helping to define the concept of success versus significance. Walk us through 3 or 4 things that team leads, managers, executives, people who are leading in the office or the field or somewhere between, what are 3 or 4 things that they can do or should do in order to help make this shift from success to significance?
Yeah. So the first one we'll talk about is understanding. And a lot of this is just your mindset shift around understanding these dynamics with your team, right? So the first one I would touch on is work ethic versus connection, right? Where many of us, including myself, would have told you that work ethic is one of the most important factors in your success in a career. If you survey the population, so if you take baby boomers, for example, again, I'm trying not to steer us into a generational conversation, but at the end of the day, 51% of boomers would say that work ethic is the most important factor in your success in your career. Today, whether you're talking about millennials or Gen Z, millennials, that's around 30%. So the degradation of the value of work ethic in the workplace, they value connection, personal connection. So that differential is significant when you think about how do you lead your team, how do you connect with your team. Older generations in our workforce and how we grew up, us as leaders, as executives, would say that work ethic is the most valuable. But when you're leading a team that believes connection is the most important, you have to think differently about how you lead them, inspire them, motivate them, understand them to get the most out of them and to maximize them. And when you do that, then you get 110% of the work ethic, right?
And when you say that, do you directly mean emotionally connecting them to what they're doing?
I think personal connection. I think emotional connection at some point when you've built trust. I don't think you can build emotional connection until you've earned the trust of your team. And I think that's an important bridge to cross, right? Or even ask for. There's times with my teams when I would ask for, hey, I know that we haven't built a level of trust yet, but understand where I'm coming from or what I'm trying to achieve is to make you successful and to enable you to achieve your dreams and goals as part of my organization. Asking of that trust can sometimes put you in a completely different place than where you start the conversation. Once you earn that trust, I think you can get to emotional connection. I think the important factor here is the personal connection, understanding what do they want to do, what's important to them, and what do they want to achieve.
What about the personal connection to the impact that they have on the project or the end user or the community as a whole, that personal connection to that type of a...
Oh, that's huge, Dwayne. Because that connection is what I refer to as telling their story, right? So when you understand purpose and you're bringing to life the purpose of your organization, defining that or uncovering that first, but helping them understand the impact they have. And with this is a big gap in our industry because we don't take the time to tell people the impact they have, their significance, right, on that project, on the future of the company, their significance as a leader. Sometimes we have a big void here in leadership because we don't tell leaders how significant they are to those around them, right? Every one of us as leaders in our industry has a huge impact, not only on our family, but our teams and the leaders that we support.
So as I think about your point there about connecting on purpose, right, and really driving home the whole concept of emotionally connecting people to purpose, boy, you really made me think about a couple of clients that we've been able to work with that have just been fantastic to watch. But, you make me think of Rich Smith at Henderson. Henderson has seen some extraordinary growth, big MEP firm, nationally known, in our top 5 in a few categories. But as I think about what really helped Henderson get to that next level was that personal connection. And again, another thing that was free, other than costing him some time, but what I remember him doing that had a significant impact, backing up what you just said there, was Henderson did a great job, and Rich specifically, as CEO, did a great job of helping every new hire that came into Henderson understand their personal contribution to the purpose that they had defined for their organization and the impact that that individual would have on the team. And that's not something that you have to train around. That's just something that you do, right? And help people connect themselves to that story. But boy, that's a great point there, connecting people to the greater purpose. Good. What else, Dan?
Well, first of all, I love that, right? You think about the power of Rich having that individual conversation with every single team member they brought on board. Like sometimes we forget our shadow as leaders and executives in our industry. We forget how powerful those moments in time are. And they create a peak moment, a really powerful moment for a team member that they'll remember forever, right? But that valuing and taking the time to have a conversation around the purpose of the organization is tremendous.
And honestly, when they were, and I remember asking him, well, how are you going to do that many? Because, I mean, there were some years where they brought on 40 or 50 new people. Well, that's somewhat manageable. But then they got to the point where they're bringing on way more than that. You know, they went from 300 to over 1,000 in a 5-year period. But even in those environments where they were bringing on people in Vegas or LA or in other markets, like he would literally find time to go meet with a small group of new employees and literally have that personal conversation with them. Again, not rocket science.
Yeah, but crazy powerful when you think about the environment of what's the first thing that they hear or see the president or CEO speak to. And if it's about purpose, guess what becomes important? If it's about a KPI, then that's what becomes important.
You're right.
And when you think about how do you
That's a good
define the impact for that team member, what's important, significance and connection is more important than now. And when you do that, they'll drive for that success. They'll drive for that achievement, but helping them understand what's the bigger picture is, why we're doing what we do and why it's so impactful to so many. So
it's a reminder to me is why we call the CEOs the Chief Evangelism Officer.
That's right.
I mean, some of the worst 100%. Personalities we deal with are still good Chief Evangelism Officers, right? They fake it till they make it, but it really is the most important role of a senior leader.
Yeah, when done right?
Yeah, we've seen some done poorly. All right, Dan, what would be the next thing that you would encourage them to do?
I think, we talked a lot about it, but connecting that purpose for the organization and the individual, right? First of all, you have to understand the story, the personal purpose of the individual. What are they trying to do? I'll make that simple. What are they trying to do? What do they want to achieve in their life? What's their next step? How do we support them in that? How do you support them in that as their leader? But then help them understand the purpose of the organization. Why is so important in what you do every day as a firm, as an organization, as a company, right? Helping your team member understand why what you talk about every day from an impact, from a performance standpoint, from a goal or KPI is part of a bigger picture and what you're trying to do and achieve and the greater need that serves in your community and your world is really important, connecting that purpose, because that helps them connect to your organization. Again, I'll take you back to connection is more important than success, right? Just achieving the goal is not as powerful as helping them understand their connection. How do they use their skills, gifts, and talents to support and deliver a greater purpose? And that becomes more important the further we move with new generations in our country today.
Yeah, it's a great point. It reminds me of we've been able to be a part of this really it's a movement, but it's labeled a conference called the Construction Minds Conference. That entire conference is really about business being personal, and really truly understanding people and individuals, and most importantly, helping them understand how significantly they're needed in all areas of their life, not just on the job site. So good point there. All right, Dan, what would be the fourth thing that you would recommend that they do?
Yeah, so some of this comes out of connecting purpose. Is telling them their story, helping them understand that. And that if you start to tell them their story, you see their impact, you start to be aware of how they use their skills, gifts, and talents, you're going to want to start to support their individualism, right? Really important as you think about leading multi-generational is understanding their natural skills, gifts, and talents, what they're good at, what they want to bring to the table, and empower them to do so. Now, this gets a little dicey. When I say individualism, I'm sure some of you kind of peeled back from me. But,
I did a little bit.
But stick with me, right? There's a lot of talk about, who people identify as now. But at the end of the day, this is really around how they impact your team and the greater purpose you serve. So helping them understand that and appreciating that about them, right? Because a lot of times we pull appreciation, recognition, and positive feedback back to a KPI. Really helping them connect, and you connecting with them as their leader is understanding their individual skills, gifts, and talents, and how those show up to serve your greater goals.
Yeah, a few months ago, you and I were in a meeting, and in front of an executive team, one of the hard chargers piped up to you and said, Dan, I don't have time to sit back and tell people their story. They ought to know, kind of a smart aleck kind of a guy. Good intentions, just a real hard charger and really impatient. But your comment back to him was brilliant. I think you said something along the lines of, sometimes efficiency is not effective, and we're so focused on trying to be efficient with our time that we aren't effective with leading people. And I'm telling you, man, if efficiency is your goal versus maximizing the potential of people, you're not going to stop and tell their story. But man, when you said that, I'm like, holy crap, we need a shirt made, right? that was gold in there.
Well, I think what you have to anchor yourself back to is that your organization growth will come from the growth of your people.
Yeah.
Like if you can drive short term.
Yeah.
You can drive short term on a KPI, a strategy, a simple strategy, even a long term strategy.
Yeah.
But if you don't grow your people on the same trajectory, it's not sustainable.
There's no question.
Yep. So back to where I started, personal growth drives organizational growth. And keep in mind, as a leader, you have to personally grow. So all four of these mindset shifts we're going to walk through, these are challenges for yourself as a leader. Sustaining them is the hard part. Keeping yourself aware of these personal traps, because you fall into it because it's habitual, right? You're used to this habit and how you show up and what you talk about. Take time to walk through these steps with your team.
Yeah. So if this particular mindset shift or some of these topics are something that you or your team or people on your job sites or in your organization are struggling with, feel free to reach out to us. You can go to pioneeriq.com/mindsets. And Dan actually does this presentation for quite a few organizations and tailors that specifically to the needs of your team, just as another way for us to help people. Right?
Yeah, love doing it. Would love to come out, and if it's something that you want to learn more about, or meet to take your executive group, your leaders, or even your managers through, it's time well spent and really powerful in person. We get to get into the stories and give you some examples and really dig in with your team. So it's a lot of fun.
Again, this is something that this particular mindset shift of shifting from focusing on success to significance and leading with that whole mindset. Again, it's free, it's easy, it's just something that you have to have the courage to be able to do, because ultimately that's what people are needing and looking for, but it's not like the most popular thing to do. And it definitely isn't probably what you were taught as you were growing up and maturing in your career as you started to grow. But I would encourage you to challenge yourself with it, and just know that we know it takes courage, and to that point, lead on, because your team needs you.